Good evening, guys. Well, it's Tuesday. It's 9 o'clock. That means it's UK Cowboys time. And I've been thrust into the big boy chair. Brian's on assignment for the next couple of weeks, and Graham was meant to be standing in as Cooper Rush style, but sadly came down with the coronavirus. So I'm jumping in as Will Greer. I'm joined here by Mike, and hopefully we're supposedly getting Paul later on as well. How
Yeah,
you
he'll
doing,
be
Mike?
on now. He's just restarting his computer. I just spoke to him now. But yeah, I'm good. How are you, mate? I know it's been a downhearted weekend, but
Yeah,
here we
yeah.
are. Rain or shine.
Depressing weekend, both college football and
I know.
obviously the Cowboys game as well for both of us.
Yeah.
Not good, but particularly depressing considering that we've missed out on an opportunity to to gain ground on the Eagles as well, and we're now behind the ball on the Giants as well. But
Mm.
but we'll get into. Oh, go on.
I was gonna say the good news is, I mean, it's not good news the Cowboys lost. I'm not saying that, but the good news is that the Eagles lost 2, so it just squeezes the NFC East formally, rather than things moving away from the Cowboys. Like the loss is big, but in comparison to everything else that happened in the NFC East, like in retrospect, it's not so bad.
Yeah, it just goes to show there. I've got the standings going across the screen there, and just shows how tight the NFC East is at the moment. That everybody's within 3 games of each other. This is going to be some running, I think. Are the Commanders, worthy of postseason action? I mean, potentially, you could be saying all 3 teams, or sorry, all 4 teams being in the playoffs at the end of the year. It's quite amazing. So.
When we were talking just before we went live, we were saying just like how crazy the last 2 weeks in the NFL has been, and as well like that if the playoffs were to happen now, every team in the AFC East would make it to the playoffs, and you just have 4 teams from just none of it makes sense right now.
Oh, I know.
Oh, look, there he is, look.
How we doing, Paul? You recovered?
I don't even know if he thinks he even knows if he's on or not.
Right now, so I don't know what the hell's going on.
There we are. Oh, you were in and out quite bad then, Paul. You're like sort of sticking and freezing, but probably because you just done your update, so the computer's doing like 7 things at once. Oh, he's gone.
Oh,
he's dropped out.
Again.
He's dropped out.
There we go. Right.
Okay,
we'll move on to news and notes, I think.
Am I all good?
Can you hear you? Can you hear you?
But can you see me moving about?
Oh, yeah. I can see you moving about.
Yeah, you're getting smoother now, mate. Things are getting smoother. You're smooth now with a capital smooth.
Right. Is this better now?
Yep.
Yeah. I remember that.
Right.
I
think we're there now.
I remember that dancing.
More motion in the Cowboys' offense on Sunday.
Hey!
Anyway,
let's get into it, mate.
We'll move on to the news and notes. So obviously the Cowboys, as we're saying, Cowboys unfortunately lost in overtime, 31-28 at Lambeau. Mike McCarthy's return home. The attendance was 78,433, and the loss moves us into 3rd place in the NFC East with a 6-3 record. The injury update, the only one really was obviously that Zeke was a healthy scratch, or was a scratch again this week. But that's understandable that we've got 3 games in the next 12 days. So it's kind of expected, and you want him at full strength, especially, for the run-in. Anthony Brown unfortunately went down during the game on that first touchdown pass to Christian Watson. And he's in concussion protocol. Expected probably to clear it this week. It wasn't deemed a big concussion, thankfully. I didn't exactly see how he concussed himself, but
hit the ground.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. But
yeah,
and then obviously that led to Christian Watson having a field day and becoming, setting an NFL mark that he's only the second rookie receiver to have 3 touchdowns against the Dallas Cowboys in our entire history. The other one being Randy Moss.
Got it, getting mossed, as they say.
Yep. We got to see a little bit of Kelvin Joseph this week as a boundary corner. Obviously, I think the other 2 touchdowns were sort of given up with Blanding coverage and just being outrun. I didn't think Joseph was too bad, but we'll get onto that when we talk about the defense. And then, as usual, we had the usual problems with our penalties, particularly in the overtime, where 2 costly penalties negated big runs as well. Especially, I mean, if you're going to, the Connor McGovern one, I mean, that was, if you're going to call that, you should call the pass interference. You should be fair and call the pass interference on Jair Alexander as well.
Thank you. Someone's mentioned it.
Yep.
That one was ticky-tacky, I will say that.
Yeah. But, and I mean, by all accounts as well, the Jalen Tolbert lining up offside as well, he was being drawn offside
He was actually way past the line of scrimmage. I mean, I'm sorry, but that is like fundamentals of a wide receiver. It's like you checked with the referee before the ball's been pre-snapped. You looked at the referee as well to see if he was okay, and yet no indication, and yet he still got flagged for it. What the hell was he doing?
Well, if you hear what both him and Dak were saying, that it was Sarah Thomas, the down judge, she was actually motioning him forward. So he'd lined up on the line, or the way he read it was that she was motioning him forward. So if she was going like that, she was maybe actually trying to tell him to go backwards or whatever. But who knows?
When it rains, it pours.
It does. But I think we'll move on to the offense and talk about the offensive woes.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something, though. I'll tell you something. Regards to this offense, I can't really complain besides the interceptions. I can't complain. Yep. We put points on the board. CeeDee Lamb was 150 yards or something like that. Scored a couple of touchdowns. Pollard was over 100 yards rushing or something like that. I mean, offensively, we were okay. It was just the mistakes from the bad reads from Dak in that game.
Yep.
Like, I don't know about you, but I have no really much complaints about how our offense actually generally played in that game.
I don't either. I mean, as you can see the stats here, we got production out of Dalton Schultz, we got production out of Michael Gallup. It looked a bit scary when Gallup went down on that first possession, but he came back and he was strong. CeeDee Lamb had a career day in that he got 152 yards and 2 touchdowns. As you say, Pollard went over 100 yards. The best yards per carry were actually from Malik Davis as well, but he was only used 5 times.
Yeah.
The only thing, I mean, obviously, why when our running game was so effective that we were averaging about 5.1 yards a play, why did we throw the ball?
Why did we abandon it? That's. I'm not saying I'm going to speak for all for Cowboys Nation right now, but that seems to be the running question going across all over, from Twitter to everywhere, from Cowboys all across the world right now. It's like, why did we abandon the run game? It was like we were third and fourth. right? We
Yep.
could easily have run that, like, because we're averaging 5.2 yards per carry. We could have got a first down and still drive the ball downfield, and yet we decided to go for it in the fourth. And this was in overtime, by the way. We decided to go for it. Right? I respect the decision for going for it because we want to go there and win, not give Green Bay any chance to kind of counter attack. I get that, but run the damn ball.
Yep.
Yeah, I got no problem in the fourth down call. People say, like, why didn't they kick the field goal? And it's like two things. One, it was like a 53, 54-yard field goal. That's not a given.
At Lambeau Field.
At Lambeau Field. So the air is colder, which makes the ball harder and denser and heavier.
Yeah,
you know, you've seen Crosby miss a field goal in the first quarter.
Yeah,
the second quarter. Yeah, because it is a tricky place to kick, especially when it's cold and damp. But I'm with it. I've said before that I don't hate Kellen Moore as an offensive coordinator, but sometimes, and here's a perfect example of what I've said before, it's the sequence of play calls that he makes that sometimes doesn't make sense. And a perfect example of this was that. Yeah. So if you're on 3rd and 4 and you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to go for it on 4th down anyway, why are you throwing the ball on 3rd down then?
Especially how much success we had throughout the whole game with the run game.
Yeah.
Like, we were getting, like, Pollard was getting all those dirty yards as well from after contact, which I thought was like, this is a bonus for us because Pollard's not that type of running back to get those dirty yards. He wasn't, but he was being very successful through that game. Like,
and the combo, Paul, you would have seen this. The combo of Zach Martin with Terrence Steele on the right, getting good push.
Oh my God!
Think between those pair on that side and the way Pollard could have got the run, you think easily. So it's 2 chances to get 4 yards. You think easily they could squeeze 2 yards out of both attempts if you had to.
Agreed. And yeah, I mean, there's just no excuse. I really don't think there's any excuse. Like I really want to know the justification behind why we abandoned the run when it was proven so successful. Like, it seemed like it was very desperate when we didn't had to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's like I have no complaints of how the offense genuinely played. I have more of an issue with the play calling from the coaching side. That's my biggest issue from this game. It's like, okay, this is working. Okay, let's try something else.
Yeah.
And it's like, stick to what's working. We're running against a free front defensive line, 3-4 offense, and we were running the ball down the middle, God knows how many times throughout the whole game. Like, I'm just trying to calculate the number. 31 times, there was 31 Russian carries that whole game, and the majority of those carries came through the middle, and we were so successful at it. I just don't understand why we abandoned that. It's just, I'm lost for words.
Malik Davis was averaging 7.6 yards per carry.
I know, and that was what, five carries he had, 5.
I put it in the post. And then you say all that, and like we knew that the Green Bay Packers were struggling on run defense.
Yeah.
And you've got Dak throwing the ball 46 times in a game.
Yeah. And I mean, Dak has a record now of 6-14 when he throws over 40 passes a game. I mean, that just goes to show we should never be getting him over 40 passes a game unless you're seriously trailing and you need to be you're in the Packers' position. But the Packers, because of our run defense, which we'll get onto obviously when we move on to defense, the Packers weren't even passing the ball. Aaron Rodgers had a fairly sedate afternoon, only throwing 20 passes.
And that shows you how well distributed his offense was as well. But I'm going to bring up some comments just to get everyone get back involved in that.
Yeah, so let's get the MVPs of the show on. Come on.
So I believe we have a new viewer here. So welcome to Jorgen Visland. Apologies if I do not pronounce your name correctly. So he is.
We need to know where he's from, and if he's from Germany,
tell us where you're from, dude.
Yeah, and if you're from Germany. Good week
so the offense is not consistent at this point. It gave me the O-line that we had. DeMarco Murray was here. Romo and Dez any day of the week over Lamb and Dak. Debatable. debatable. It's sort of interesting that we wasted Tyron Smith's talent, either been poor on offense and defense. Our team just hasn't been consistent on both sides of the ball at the same periods of time. I get that. I can understand that. I just think I don't think the problem was actually our offense as such, but I think it was just down to our play calling. We had it with Scott Linehan before that. Now we've got it with Kellen Moore, and Jurgen has said he's from Sweden. Welcome, man. Welcome. And Joe is called Joe from Italy.
Closest I've ever been is Norway.
So Joe just came and said Green Bay were 14 points down and they were still running the ball and we were 14 points ahead while we were passing. See, that's it. There, like it's like the success of the run game through that game, especially in that temperature, the way Lambeau Field is, like run the ball because it's
slick as well.
Yeah, and
it's so
and slick
it's
and it's shiny, and it's quite shiny as well when you looked at it. So, so when you look at like the shine that it has on that field at that time of day with the light shining on it, that affects the wide receivers with the catching too.
Absolutely,
not just the route running.
The peripherals, they try and run and catch, try and catch the ball when you've got a light shining on you. All those things play into a big, massive factor. But again, I just really don't understand why we just abandoned the run at the most vital time where we're 14 points up, and we decide to throw the ball a lot more. I don't know if it's just because we're trying to give Dak more passing reps, which I thought was a bit OTT, especially for him coming back from injury. I'm all about the fair distribution, like 50-50 split, try and split it between that. And it seemed like we were going 50-50, like all the way up to that third quarter. Then all of a sudden it was just pass. And I'm just like, what are we doing?
Yep.
Yeah. The only thing I can think that they were thinking, the mindset is the only thing that I'm thinking is that they were expecting the Packers to scheme up because they were loading the box. They were loading that box up.
Yeah.
So they were obviously looking at thinking of, well, the Packers are loading against the run, let's pass. So, like, let's zig while they're zagging. That's the only thing I can think of. But regardless, the issues you have was they didn't respect CD Lamb. CD Lamb. They didn't respect Michael Gallup, and he was struggling to get separation. They didn't respect Noah Brown, and they were basically just scheming up against CD Lamb, who did have a good day apart from the one bad interception. But because that interception, the first one was on CD Lamb.
Yeah,
100%.
He was. I don't know. He missed this timed his route or something like that.
No.
But
I think it was a timing route, and he was in the wrong place.
Yeah, like it's like the pass looked like it was going to be a dead on, and CD just looked as though he just went beyond. Like it was on him. Like he was still kind of like calculating his route, if that makes sense.
The idea was it was a timing route, and he's supposed to be in there, from what I can see, to go in and clear the safety out. So Dalton Schultz is one-on-one in the end zone to catch the ball. But Dalton Schultz was slightly out of position too. But whatever that play call was, let's take it out the playbook. It didn't work.
No, it didn't.
And the same with the other interception as well. That Mike McCarthy's talked about this. This seems to be some sort of option play that they have.
Yeah.
And it's the same one that the interception came 2 weeks ago against who was it?
The Lions.
The Lions, yes. And it's literally the defense gave us a single high safety look pre-snap, and as soon as the snap went, they dropped back into a cover 2, cover 4 style defense. And Lamb is meant to have seen that, changed his route depending on how he sees it. I think Dak Prescott saw something else as well, so there's miscommunication there.
Right.
Yeah.
And if that's showing up twice in games, that's what teams will do from now on. If you're going to do that, it's better to have a simple offense where you just, scheme it and throw to a position and know that that's where the player's going to be, rather than having them both read the same thing, and hopefully come up 2 + 2 = 4.
Yeah, it should be on Dak to make the reason, not the wide receivers. It should be one like it should be the commander in chief who's actually thrown the ball. Like,
but I mean, the issue that I've got, and I'll let you kick into it, Paul, right, is that at this stage, with the amount of time and the amount of seasons that Schultz, Lamb, and Dak have played together, they
know better. They should know better.
But they play together enough that you would think that, because when they're clearing routes like that in route combinations, they got to understand what the concept of the play is supposed to be. So that means that, and this is why the first interception is on CeeDee Lamb, is that he's supposed to clear out those safeties, but as he's running a route, he's got to think to himself, what is Dak looking for? Like, being on the same page. So he's got to think, so Dak's and this is all about the chemistry talk, one of the big things, which is what's happening at the moment with Cousins and Jefferson. But there's the chemistry part of it, is seeing the field together at the same time and knowing what it is that they're looking for. And it just seems to be that Lamb is a great wide receiver, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns in one game, massive game. But the fault that happens with CeeDee Lamb is exactly right there. It seems to be he fails to understand what the concepts of these plays are. So it's not the play, it's the concept. So
again,
not seeing the field the same as Dak.
So again, in a way, that's on the coaches for not educating these players enough.
It could be. It could be a coaching problem. It could be an understanding problem. But whatever it is, by now, for like 3 seasons, coming up to 4 seasons, you'd think they would have this, that you don't expect to see something like that happen.
The other criticism I've heard levied on that play is that it's probably better for when you're, say, between the 30-yard lines, so you got a bit more real estate,
more space.
Playing, and this has always been a Kellen Moore problem, is that he's great between the 20s. He's great at moving the ball, and the offenses have traditionally been strong at moving the ball between the 20s. As soon as you get down to that sort of red zone distance, the 25-yard line in, that's where things tighten up, and Kellen Moore just can't seem to scheme us back into position with that. And
red zone, red zone is the
red zone.
Red zone, and just outside the red zone. I mean, I think we were on the 25-yard line of that. So it's where the amount of real estate that you've got. I mean, Kellen Moore should take himself, if he's not brought back next season, he should take himself north of the border where they've got 25-yard end zones, and they can do
multiple moves behind the line.
That's right. If Kellen Moore was to go to the CFL, he'll be a Hall of Famer, put it that way.
Yeah. Well, you can have multiple players in motion. Have you ever watched a CFL game?
It's crazy. I enjoy it. I do. It's quite entertaining. I'll give the CFL credit. They know how to make it fun.
It's weird seeing the posts in the wrong place too.
Yeah. And the fact you see a run up from the wide receivers before the ball's been snapped as well. That
all that motion is so confusing.
Much motion. But anyway, going back into the topic though, I'm just like, it's just Kellen Moore.
Really. Because I mean, I have a look at Gallup stats while you're there as well, Paul.
I'm looking at it right now.
He really struggled to get separation. I don't know why. And it seemed to be, we all know the Gallup sets up shop on 9 routes, bang 9s, deep crosses. And for some reason, they had him playing on intermediate routes, and I don't know why. He couldn't not get separation. And the defensive backs for the Packers, the like Eric Stokes and the rest of them were injured, so they were playing with backup cornerbacks, and our guys couldn't get separation beyond CeeDee Lamb.
Well, I disagree with that in a way because, like, Michael
They were
Gallup
struggling.
and Schultz did manage to, respectively, Gallup got 23 yards. That's his longest reception, and Dalton Schultz got a 16-yard.
Yeah.
That was
No.
long.
I mean,
So there
Schultz
was
had a good game.
Yeah, I mean, but what I'm saying is, it's like our receivers did manage to gain separation, but it just seemed to be that point where Green Bay adapted. Like, and
They just didn't care about it.
I will give Green Bay Packers all the credit. They adapted to our offense very well.
They loaded that box. They had a heavy box going.
Like their defensive coordinator, I couldn't tell you who his name is, but he did a great job. He did. I'm not afraid to say it. Like, I will give credit when it's due. The Packers, like, we went into this game expecting to kind of, with Eric Stokes being out, all these stars and stuff like that, with even Aaron Rodgers' thumb injury and stuff like that, we were expecting to go in this game and win. And we were actually on the verge of winning. We were 14 points up going into the fourth, and we wasted it away by just dumbfounded play calling by deciding to abandon the run.
Here's a question for you guys, and this covers the whole of the Cowboys, not just the offense. Do you think that the whole Mike McCarthy going back to Green Bay thing, the whole everybody's injured on the Green Bay Packers, should be an easy win for the Cowboys? They're on a 5-game slide. The Packers are on a 5-game slide. Do you think that added up and actually created a sense of almost like performance anxiety that saw it? You saw lots of things happening around the team that were inexplicable. I mean, we'll get onto run defense, but you saw stunts where there was miscommunication. You saw miscommunication on the offense. Weird calls, as we say, with the fourth quarter. Were we just off our game because there was, it'd been talked about how McCarthy had been up since 4:00 in the morning and at the local Starbucks getting coffee. He'd been at the stadium since 9 a.m. Obviously, it wasn't a 3.
I will add to that, Lorne. Don't forget, he actually arrived in the stadium wearing like a thingy, a Lombardi jacket. That to me, I'm sorry, McCarthy. I'm sorry. I know you have a lot of history being at the Green Bay Packers and you've got your own street named after you and stuff like that. But you're our head coach now. You shouldn't be having to embrace all this right now. Do that when you're retired. Do that when you're not coaching against that team right now. I'm sorry, but I just think it really screwed his head off. I really think it did.
You did see him, flinging the headset, very animated, even for Mike McCarthy. Like, that is out of character for him. And it was something
for him to throw his headset, he's like, oh yeah, boof, I made a really stupid decision to tell Kellen Moore to throw the ball. Yes, you did.
Yeah, but I mean, like, just to see him uncharacteristic to what he is normally like on the sideline tells you his mindset was being back in Green Bay. And, you wonder if that meant he had too much emotion in the game that was overclouding it. Plus, then you add the fact that it's a bye week. So, you say, he's going to be prepared for Green Bay because he's on a bye week. Well, what if that caused him to over-prepare and then to go into this game with high levels of anxiety? So now he's just put himself in his own head. He's in his own mind.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing on the comments here, like, we're talking about like the wide receivers, if we're going like up against like the Honey Badger and stuff like that. I mean, I find that's maybe a bit not an unfair statement to say, because like when you look at the stats, like besides those mistakes that Lamb did, offensively we were moving the ball quite well, but it just seemed to be the situation that we were in. We wanted to burn the clock down. We didn't want to give the Packers
ball control.
We wanted to control the game, but we kept we were like freeing out, and we just let Green Bay come back in, and they were the ones who were actually burning the clock down near the tail end of the game. So it's on the coaches. I wouldn't say it's on the players as such. Like, I mean, we did score 28 points, 4 touchdowns, so we can't really necessarily complain from that perspective. The perspective is it's just when we were in control of the ball, we were just not being in control. We were just giving it away, essentially. So,
but to go back to the Schultz topic there, Schultz was actually looking more like the Schultz we know in this game. He was being quite reliable.
Yeah. Schultz looked actually not too bad.
Making catches, moving bodies on the line, looking much better.
Oh, I will say one of his, was it his block or was it Jake Ferguson's block on the edge?
Yeah, it was
block, absolutely perfection. It just opened the lane for, I don't think it was actually for Tony Pollard. I think it was for
it was for
Davis.
Malik Davis. Yeah, it was one of the big chunk plays. Yeah.
I mean, why couldn't we just execute that nearly every play at the time? Because that came out of nowhere.
Like, besides Malik Davis. But here's a question. Here's a question for you, Paul.
Absolutely flatlined the defensive lineman. He absolutely flatlined them. You know what I mean?
Here's a question for you, and everybody at home as well, is do you think after seeing the way Malik Davis played in that game, he deserves some reps going forward?
Absolutely.
100%. I mean, yeah. Now that he's on the active roster as well, because obviously he's used up his 3 call-ups from the practice squad. So you've got him, you know, that's going to be a nice 3-headed monster between him, Zeke, and Tony Pollard. You know, if everybody's active as well. I mean, obviously, your numbers as well, you've got to try and narrow that 56 down to, or 53, bring up 2, and then narrow it down to 48 for game day. So, but if you can get all 3 of them on the field at any one time, and I mean, obviously, if you're a Cowboys fan of the 90s, you only had Emmitt Smith, and occasionally, you know, you had somebody spelling in for 1 or 2 plays. But I mean, if you go back to the Cowboys of the 70s and 80s, Tony Dorsett was only on the field probably about 50% of the offensive snaps.
Yeah.
You know, they were constantly swinging people in. Ron Springs, Preston Pearson. You know, and
Emmitt Smith did have Lincoln Coleman.
Yeah, but I mean, even so, I mean, Lincoln Coleman was only on for, you know, a handful of snaps a game in general. But, you know, generally you do have what we're seeing now, where it's not so much, you do have a featured back, but you still have a running back by committee. So you do have Zeke opening the rushing lanes for Pollard when he comes on because of the change of pace, and then you've normally got a third guy as well. So we need that setup, and I think we're getting there. We're showing these guys can perform, and I mean, you know, Malik Davis in the two weeks that he's been filling in for Zeke, I mean, he's actually flashed at times. I mean, he almost got a touchdown in the Bears game, you know, and obviously he was churning up the yards as well, and you know, we either screened to him, but it was kind of snuffed out, and he only got a yard on that as well. But
I just think that, like, you know, like if you're going to go into this Vikings game, and you're going to have, I know we shouldn't be talking ahead, but I'm just thinking, it is in reference to the last game, that if you're going to take Zeke into this next game, he's, you know, you've got concerns about the injury. Well, keep Malik Davis on your active roster. Take him as one of your 46. Take him in, and if Zeke needs to come out for a little bit, and then Pollard starts gassing, you've got Malik there that you know you can rely on. I think that it's not. It's good. I'm only trying to think of positives from this game.
Don't get me wrong. There is positives we can take from this game. Like offensively, there is definitely positives. Like we did get
the line had no sacks.
Did it? I think there was 2 sacks. Dak got sacked twice.
Did he? I
Yeah.
just one he didn't.
Yep.
No, Dak got sacked twice. Yep. Three touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and got sacked twice with a QBR rating of 44.7 and a rating of 78.6.
Okay. I must have missed that.
Yeah, so he went for 27 out of 46, 265 yards, 5.8 yards per average.
Yep.
But I mean, look at the offensive line, though. If you look at the rankings in terms of how many sacks they've allowed, the Cowboys' offensive line are first.
Yeah.
They've only allowed
Yep.
6 sacks. That's first in the NFL.
And again, I'm going to give again. I'm one of Joe Philbin's biggest critics. Like I generally thought where our O line did relatively well. I thought for the majority of the game, there was a couple of times where the penalties started reoccurring again and stuff like that. But over and all, I felt comfortable. But again, it was just more down to the actual outside of the O line. It was more down to the play calling than anything. But again, Jorgen made a point on one of his comments saying it's end of the day, it's more on the players executing these plays. They should know it, and I completely agree. I agree.
Yeah.
But to a certain extent, if it's that complicated, then we should make it more simplified. We should It should be the more less is more approach. And this is what I was kind of saying. It's like if it's that complicated, then go back to the ones that was being more successful.
And like figure out how you're going to use your zone blocking scheme. Like, what are you doing with that?
Labarsky just came in. So the big Labarsky, who's watching on YouTube right now, he just came in at the right time. Hey fellas, not sure if you mentioned it yet, but the more and more I watch more, I think that Kellen Moore is the problem. I don't understand what he's doing. Yeah, we've literally just did like a good 5-10 minute segment on that.
On just Kellen Moore.
Yeah, so you could probably get where we're coming from with that one, Labarsky. So, but we hope you're good, my friend.
It could we might see James Washington. His
I've got very low expectations. I'm going to say I have very low expectations with James Washington coming in. I just don't know what's going to happen.
Well, we've still not started his 21-day practice window, and whether that's they're keeping it until there's some movement with the Dark Lord from the New York Giants, or formerly the New York Giants and the LA Rams. But you know, that's the thinking. If you started the 21-day window on him, and then you bring in OBJ, then you know there's you then have to either promote him, and then you've got a glut of receivers, or you've got to leave him on IR.
Sorry, Lauren. I need to bring this comment up from Joe. Yep. This is actually this is proper trolling right here. It's like we're going to have to start changing him from Kellen Passmore. I like that one, Joe. I like that one.
But the thing I'm thinking, because people are going about OBJ and all the rest of it, and because it's about firepower and options.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking at you say about James Washington, and I'm kind of like, what are you going to get? What James Washington are you getting? Do you know what I don't get? Why they don't start using Kevontae Turpin?
I know.
Yeah, well,
why not try it? Why not?
We saw him actually catch a pass this game.
We did.
Yeah.
So you know they did, but it was all too late after everybody was
3 yards though. But still, I think with his speed and a slant player, for example, if like throwing a slant on him, that would be ideal for him if he's just right there as being like the inside slot receiver. So honestly, I'm baffled, guys. I really am. Like going up at and I know what you're saying, mate. Like we shouldn't be talking about the Vikings game. We're going to be doing that on Thursday for the pregame show, but I have my concerns now. Like going forward, like we're 6-3, great. We're still there, but we've got so many levels of inconsistency when it comes to the play calling with the offense, and that's not going to get us over the finish line to get into the playoffs. That's going to cost us.
Yes, here we go.
Especially
Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, if we move on to the defense, this is the next reason why the next few games are actually quite frightening as well.
Well,
So
yeah.
I was going to say,
I'll
just
move
before
us-
you move to the defense, the only thing I would say is that this was a game, if you want to criticize Dak on anything, that this was the game in the dying parts of the fourth quarter. I'm not saying in the last few minutes, like say about halfway through, when Christian Watson scored that touchdown. You're now looking at Dak to lean on him for his leadership and his skills and to say, right, win us this game. Now, Kirk Cousins, they did the same then. Look what happened. But they done it with Dak and he failed, and we've seen it before. So the questions is if we go to the playoffs and we start leaning on Dak, where does that put us? How deep into the playoffs are we going to go? That's my only criticism and my question with Dak at the moment. And you all know me, I like Dak. I think he's a good quarterback.
I'm the same. I like Dak. I think he is a good quarterback, but I think when you start using him too much, then you're going to lose the production of him. And we saw it because,
can you lean on him to get you the win?
Like Lauren was mentioning there, Aaron Rodgers went 14 for 20. 20 attempts. And I'm trying to think
less than 15 completions.
Yeah. So, and look what he did to us. That's efficiency there.
Yeah.
And there is a stat that when Dak Prescott has a similar performance like Aaron Rodgers, we do have a sizable winning margin on he is sizably positive in terms of his one-loss record. It's when you start throwing 40 times, he's in 6-14, and and normally you're only throwing 40 times when you're losing the game and you're trying to get back into it. We were winning the game. We had 195-0 record going into the fourth quarter, leading by 14 points. We're now 100. As soon as that came off,
see when they displayed that on the TV, I thought, that's it.
It's done.
Game's over.
Commentators curses in.
I'll give you another example of that. The Atlanta game a couple of years ago, the watermelon kick, 98.2% victory for the Atlanta Falcons, and
commentators curse.
I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I thought the moment I thought, because I was so confident going into this game. Like I had us to win 41-21. That's how I saw how the game was going to pan out because of the injuries and how Rodgers was playing. Them being in a 5-game losing streak, was put the nail in the coffin. Let their season finally be over, and we can actually have a revenge in the Packers. My thing that kind of made me rethink was when Mike McCarthy started walking about in that Lombardi jacket. I was like, I know it sounds cliche as hell, but I was like, what are you doing? And after that, I just kind of felt uneasy going into the game, but I felt okay at the end of the third quarter, like I mentioned. As we said, 14 points ahead, and again, what cost us the game was ourselves. That was it. We screwed ourselves over that game. That game was there for the taking, and we did not execute the right calls to keep control of the ball and win the game and see it throughout. We failed to do that, and that's on Mike McCarthy. That's on Kellen Moore, and also it is on Dak and whoever, etc. as well, for making those mistakes and bundles as well, because they should know the playbook. So make of that what you will, ladies and gentlemen. It's on the coaches. End of the day, they're the ones responsible.
Yep. Well, we're now 46 minutes in, and I think it's only fair that we go and talk about the other side of the ball.
Oh God, here we go with this one. Here we go with
defense.
Yeah, this is going to be. This is going to be interesting.
Yep. So obviously we started out well. Obviously the first quarter was scoreless, so we kept the Packers in check. Second quarter, obviously Christian Watson had a couple of drops in the first quarter as well, and then Aaron Rodgers started to get a bit of steam, and Aaron Jones stepped up as well, and the Green Bay offense. And we've seen the usual problem that has been there for the last 3 or 4 weeks. We have a really bad run defense at the moment. Yep. Do you think it is scheme or do you think it is players?
Scheme. There's certain players that
simpler. Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that, mate. Yeah. Like I think as much as I love Neville Gallimore and stuff like that, and Osa Digizua and stuff like that, it just really depends on who we're playing against. And the way how we were up against Green Bay, it did not match up to the steam for those players to be fitting for that steam. So it's a hard one. I would say it's a 50-50. You know what? It's a bit of a 50-50 split. I think
they've got the people to do it. They can tackle. They can. I just think that they put so much emphasis on pass rushing and like the cornerbacks aren't being asked to come up to the line and stop the run, so those runs on the outside go past them. So I think it's definitely a scheme when you look at it.
Don't forget as well, Green Bay have always had a good offensive line. They've always had that, and we've always.
It wasn't bad, the offensive line, actually.
No, the offensive and Bacchiari was playing and still like he was questionable. Even Aaron, and this is the thing that annoyed me the most is that Aaron Jones was questionable going into this game as well, because obviously last week he was carted off against Carolina, Detroit. Sorry, I do apologize. He was carted off. It was like we don't even think he would actually even play. So even him to even come on the field, pretty much with a lingering injury from the week before, came in and still produced 138 yards. No, sorry, 138 yards and 24 carries. Yeah. The thing that annoys me the most is just the whole total offensive yards. 415 total offensive yards, 208 passing, and 207 rushing.
Yep.
It's not good enough. It's not.
And going back to the scheme, I mean, I think, obviously, again, going history-wise, the Cowboys' flex defense of the 70s and 80s was designed to stop the run. It then got negated because Bill Walsh came in with the West Coast offense and took away, effectively, the short passing game became his running game. And the Cowboys, because the defensive line weren't designed on generating pressure for first and second down, teams could move the ball if they adopted the short passing game. This way round, you see it. I mean, when we were going for runs there, we were doing slants, we were doing stunts, we were doing, basically bringing the line down and bringing somebody around the far end as well. So, I think the emphasis on our defense is trying to get this pass rush, whether it's a rushing down or whether it's an expected passing down. And I think that you have that because you're selling out to defend the pass and get the pass rush, you're almost giving up on the run. And
you have to. There has to be an offload to one from the other. Yeah.
I want to interrupt you guys in this one, right? And I want to bring Jorgen's comment onto this one, and I'm going to kind of expand on this take on this. So Jorgen just said, I feel like we can't contain that. So that point, I will explain. The runners will leak through for the outside. I don't know if it's a strong safety thing or a linebackers to pick up the runners. So here's my perception of this. I think our defensive front seven is way too aggressive.
Very aggressive.
Very aggressive. And that opens the door for the wee shuffle passes out, like the run play option that we saw with Jalen Hurts against the Eagles.
Screen passes.
The more aggressive you are in terms of your front seven, it's just going to open up the doors for the wee short shuffle passes and stuff like that. So that's something that needs to be looked at, I think. Yeah. So, and I noticed that a lot. Like we saw Aaron Rodgers, it wasn't even that. It was like I wasn't like an actual side pass. It was like a toss. It was a toss essentially, and I don't know how many times we got bunned up to the actual sideline, especially on the left hand side, where and this is not on Sam Williams, but it's more on the linebackers at the time who were coming down. They were getting themselves out of position and they had to track back. And the person that was making those plays was Micah Parsons coming from the other side to actually make up the tackle. It feels like Parsons was actually playing all three positions of linebacker at one go. So it's
and I will say this too. I'm officially off the idea of Micah Parsons playing traditional off-ball linebacker.
Yeah, I agree on that one.
Yeah, I agree.
He wasn't a factor in that game, and he was, if anything, as well. I mean, I think he was trying to play hero ball a lot of the time as well, and he was getting himself isolated in a lot of situations as well. So, he wasn't actually able to do things because he sort of deviated from the scheme. But the other thing that was, and I think it was Isaiah Stanback brought this up on Talking Cowboys the other day as well, is that the way the Packers actually lined up and our defense lined up so that we picked out the strong side and we guided everything towards stopping the run on the strong side. The Packers went, right, you're going to line up for the strong side and defend the strong side. We're going to sweep it out. And, they were moving their guards out on sweeps and going straight for the weak side. And then you're forcing guys like Anthony Brown, as we've been saying all season, you're forcing guys like Anthony Brown, Trayvon Diggs to come up and try and be force players and force it back inside. And they don't have that instinct. And this is where the problem is, I think.
Yeah, and the issue you've got too is Aaron Jones is maybe one of the fastest running backs in the league. So if you let him get up to speed when we're already struggling to make tackles, once he gets there, I mean, that guy is gone. I mean, he's fire. There's fire under those boots when he gets going. Yeah. And like you say, that the toss sweep and the RPO on this style of defense they're playing is the kryptonite.
It really is, and this is my level of concern because we do get to play the Eagles again.
Yeah, and that's what they do.
Yep, and it wouldn't surprise me if, like said, Danny Dimes and Saquon Barkley might try and utilize that for their next game plan against us. Like the only games I could really see that might not actually happen may be against the Vikings because they're more traditional in terms of the handoff. They don't really do screens that much. But looking ahead,
but Cook his initial burst, I mean,
so.
And Mattison's no slouch as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's reliable enough
good as well.
You look at what we've got in the next couple of weeks. You've got Mattison and Cook. You've got Saquon Barkley. You've got you're going up against the Eagles again. You're going to have Derek Henry as well. You've got Jonathan Taylor for the Colts. The Colts, obviously, they look strong against the Raiders, or are the Raiders just absolutely pathetic, as Jeff Saturday had said when he was in the ESPN analyst?
They do need something to come. They need something to balance the defense back down. Ironically, like what we've seen also is that this was actually a decent game where we could have had Anthony Barr. Like that would have helped quite a bit.
I think
that defense is missing out. When you look like it's nearly 450 yards in 2 games, what's the common denominator? No Anthony Barr.
Yeah, I think and don't get me wrong, that we've kind of been a wee bit critique about Anthony Barr in some games so far this season since he came in.
But I'm not saying he's a perfect linebacker.
I think this game he would have been perfect. How many times has he played Green Bay over the years? He knows how they are. He knows how. He's got Rodgers in his book pretty much, so
he's got the size
he would have been a big massive factor, especially in the linebacker core, especially against the run and in terms of pass coverage as well.
Yeah, because when you think of the type of player Barr is, he can bear down and come down and make those tackles.
Yeah, it was interesting that yes, we didn't have Barr this weekend because he was injured, but Damone Clark was hardly on the field. 2 weeks ago, Damone Clark was thrust into the game and played 40 snaps or something like that. This time he hardly had any snaps, and he only had it up with one tackle or one assist anyway.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if perhaps like with the Clark thing, and I haven't got an answer. I have asked the question, but I wonder if it was perhaps that post game for Clark's first game, they've gone, "How do you feel?" And there was like a little bit of doubt there.
Well,
and you don't want to mess with that.
Well, that you kind of run into this kind of segment for not a segment, but for this question from Labasi. So he's got a question asking, can we fix at this point in the season, or it is what it is?
Yeah, no, of course you can fix it.
We can definitely fix it. Like, you can always fix anything. Is like we saw what Joe Philbin can do with the offensive line. That's a prime example.
You just gotta ask your players to focus more on the run.
Yeah, like
I think they're not focused completely on the run. So what they're doing is they're just like saying, get to the backfield. Like Dan Quinn's system is all about.
It was no secret, though, Mike. It was no secret.
No, it was not.
Like,
no.
Like, because there was no secret that they were going to be really run heavy because of Aaron Rodgers' hand. Yeah, that's another factor as well.
His wide receiver cause diminished.
Yeah, but despite they scored so many yards on us, but the fact is,
still.
But the majority, the fact is that they were very run heavy from the early part of the game, and it did kill us. So,
it's fixable. It is fixable. Very fixable.
You have to wonder as well whether we actually that strip sack fumble, whether we actually fixed Aaron Rodgers' hand, because obviously as soon as he came off after that, they were looking at it and all that, but he came back out, and that's when their passing offense started to click. And the next drive was the 58, capped off with a 58-yard touchdown to Watson to tie it up, and then nothing happened from our offense. So the next play, the running game kicks in, and we're behind the 8 ball on that. And obviously we lost Anthony Brown as well. So
I'll tell you exactly what it was with Aaron Rodgers there, Lauren. I think he just ran out of the Ananaska, whatever it was he was taking.
The ayahuasca, yeah.
Yeah, I think it ran out on him, and he finally decided to wake up and actually just tear it up on us for those certain plays.
They were always they wanted this game. Like, as far as
they wanted it more. Yeah, they wanted it more.
Yeah.
And like the Packers fans, they know that their season's like is looking iffy. Yeah, it's dying on them. But this was their Super Bowl. This game was their Super. They Mike McCarthy plus Dallas Cowboys.
How many teams have said that this year? Oh, exactly. This is our Super Bowl this year. It's always against us. Yeah. Always.
So there's that factor to it. But on the defensive side, in terms of can you fix the run defense, definitely. It's down to Dan Quinn to go into the whole concept of what he wants to do with this defense and go, this is now what I want to focus on. So let's move the slider from all the way up here and move it back slightly. Because the slider right now is all the way up on pass defense, pass rushing, get to the quarterback. That's what it's all the way up to. So you just got to bring it back a little bit. That's what you got to do.
Just want to say thank you for Jorgen just swinging in by. Thanks for swinging by to UK Cowboys fans, and hope to see you back in the next future streams. Have a good one, all the way from Sweden.
Yes. Although it is the UK Cowboys podcast, it's the European Cowboys podcast.
No, world. Don't forget.
The world.
Yeah. We're not just America's
with big wheels in the house as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
And we did have people randomly from Vietnam.
Because he even stated Aaron Rodgers was a fake injury.
Could have been.
But then Aaron Rodgers had been on the injury report the week before with that injury as well. So they'd be playing the long con if that was the case. So they were just setting it up for the Cowboys.
Oh well, they certainly know how to kind of dash our hopes. The Packers every single time. Every single time they know how to dash our hopes. Like when there's a chance when we thought finally we can actually put one down on Rodgers, and the next thing, bush. Just like that.
That's what we was thinking. That's why I was really, because like I was obviously with the blog and the boys before the show, doing the pre-game show with them,
Yeah.
And I was just like, nope, fully confident. And they were like, none at all. I was like, nope, I'm fine. And I was maybe as overly confident as the Cowboys players.
I think we all were. Well, I think the majority of Cowboys fans were. Like, I was confident, very confident, but at the same time, I was like, and a lot of people were very argumentative when you mentioned the word trap game. Like, like I did have that in the back of my mind.
I never get the trap game thing.
Like I did have that in my mind, but despite when you look at all the injuries, how Rodgers been playing with the 5-game losing streak, etc., it just kind of felt, you know what, this could potentially be a trap game because everything's in our favor. We're going to Green Bay against a diminished wide receiver core, a questionable running back. We don't know what state of like health he's going to play and stuff like that. Our good friend Lloyd Big Wheel was in Munich. He was at the Tampa Bay game against.
Did see him.
So hope you had a fantastic time. It looked awesome. They were singing Sweet Caroline after the game and stuff like that. The atmosphere looked fantastic, I have to admit. I think the German fans were on top form for that. Yeah. They were in top form.
I just feel sorry that was the game.
They were still singing 3 hours after the game as well.
They were partying all night. So
they turned the lights on the stadium off, so everybody just turned the torches on their phones on. That's the way to do it. Like, no, not going anywhere. But I just feel sorry that was the game they had to watch.
Yeah.
Like it's that the Seahawks are the Seahawks and the Bucks are just sliding.
So I think one thing we've not actually mentioned yet is pretty much our coverage for the game. Normally, our coverage is normally pretty decent. We're normally kind of shut down, whatever. And that obviously there was the injury to Anthony Brown and stuff like that, and Kelvin Joseph came in and stuff like that. But I don't know about you guys. It just kind of felt like we were playing second fiddle. It felt weird. It felt weird.
I tell you what the issues were is like Donovan Wilson, right? No, I'm not saying he's a problem. Well, he did with the one stupid penalty. He's going to learn. He will learn. Yeah. But the issue is that this is the issue where you have to try and make that in-game adjustment because everything is emphasized so much on the pass rush. What ends up happening then is Dan Quinn goes, okay, well then just bring the safety down. So then what that does is your defensive back in terms of covering the pass gets diminished. You know, you've got less of it, especially if you're trying to play cover 2 or cover 3. So if your guy's further down in the box, he's got more ground to cover. And that was the problem. And what happened then is you've got the injury that happened with Anthony Brown. And we've got to see Boss Man Fat just get torched on every play. Yeah. And one thing I will say is the backside block that he got called for. There we go. But I mean, like, when it was Joseph in there, I mean, it did look bad. I mean, let's be fair. I think that right now, Joseph has still a long way to go. Safety on special teams, he looks totally different. Put him
special teams, he's an absolute menace. Like, he's probably one of the best special teams players I've seen in a long time.
It is.
He's there at the right place at the right time to make the tackle. But before we kind of expand that, I just want to kind of bring up Austin's comment. He just wants to quickly ask, don't know if you guys talked about it, but did anyone talk about it was the right call to go for it in overtime? We did, and we do feel it was the right call to go for it, but it was the wrong play call. Like, especially, like, because you were 3rd and 4, why not run the ball? Because
run.
Our rushing average was 5.8 yards. We could have easily made, like, maybe make it to 4th and 1 and go for the 1 yard run after that. Who knows? But the fact is, you had 2 attempts for rushing rather than passing. So I agree with it.
And one of the things it said as well during warm-ups that, you know, Maher was kicking the ball from 58 yards. But that was when it was 35 degrees.
Yeah,
obviously it got about 13, 14 degrees cooler. Maher his kickoffs weren't going into the end zone. He had 0 touchbacks this game. And that just goes to show what the weather conditions were like. It makes it a heavier ball, and, you know, the ball doesn't travel as far. So you weren't guaranteed that, you know, for somebody like Maher, who's 50 yard and above are his money plays, there was no guarantee he was going to make that. And then you're given, if you miss that, you're giving them an extra 7 yards as well, where...
Yeah, you've seen the kickoff and you've seen the passes. All those balls are just dying on you. You've seen it.
Yeah.
He's not going to make that kick. Because, as you say, you're seeing it on the kickoffs, and those balls just, like, all of a sudden, the moisture, the damp, and the cooler just get into it, and that ball is just dying on you. So, yeah, you're not going to, and let's be fair, a 53, 54-yard field goal, even in good conditions, is not a given. And going back to the defense, right, which ties in with this question.
See, that's a good point there. That's another good point. So if he was to miss, they would have gained an extra 18 yards anyway.
Yeah, there's that too. And I mean, like,
people don't realize that.
Yeah, but
it's only 7 yards. It's the spot of the kick, and the kick's only 7 yards back from the line of scrimmage. So it is only that. But yeah, it's. Considering we were on about the 40-yard line, I mean, that you're almost at midfield.
And you got to look at what happened as well, Lorne, in the fourth quarter, that our defense was getting beaten by Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
The last thing you want to do is kick a field goal and then give the ball back to Aaron Rodgers to go and score a touchdown. You want to score. At that point, you want to score a touchdown and not leave it on your defense.
You want to take Aaron Rodgers out the game completely.
Out the game, yeah. That's how you do it.
I agree with that in general, but I mean, obviously, if you tuned in for Sky to watch the kickoff of the Cowboys, it was delayed because obviously the Vikings and the Bills went to overtime. Yeah. The Vikings kicked a field goal, and that forced the Bills. The only way the Bills were going to win that game was to go and throw a touchdown, and that does give a little bit extra focus. You can almost play the sort of money defense where you basically line everybody up on the 10-yard line, and then basically stop them getting 10 yards if you can, or do it so that eventually you get an impenetrable zone in the end zone as well. So it does make it harder for Green Bay, but as I say, I don't think it wasn't going to be a given that he'd make the kick. And you don't want to make it too easy on them.
No. So yeah, I mean, for the defensive backs, my only Kelvin Joseph, but like Donovan Wilson, he's got to stop making penalties. Like, he's almost the perfect safety. He's almost exactly where you want him to be. Let's just cut out these constant penalties he has each week. He's got to learn from them.
Yeah. But here's the question for you guys. Would you say that's probably our worst defensive performance this season? And guys in the comments, like, do you guys feel like we just came underprepared? Like, just like a really simple yes, no, whatever. Just like, do you feel that was our worst performance as a defense this season?
The Bears looked a bit shaky with the defense too, mind.
I mean, when you put the things in perspective, I thought that was probably our worst performance.
Yeah, so considering the passing game was leaky as well. I mean, that's unheard of.
Yeah, exactly.
This season, certainly.
Across the board, it was getting. But like, a lot of it can be attributed down to the fact that they were just struggling on the run defense so badly that then that just filters down to everything else.
Yeah.
Because it's tiring. It's tiring on the players, both physically and mentally, when you're running up on them the way that they did.
The other thing as well, I mean, obviously, having McCarthy there, who was a coach at Green Bay, all week they've been talking about how make sure you get your shoes right and everything like that. Yet you saw the Cowboys defensive backs were sliding.
Slipping.
The second of Christian Watson's touchdowns, I think he basically ran away from Deron Bland running across the middle, and Deron Bland slipped and fell. Anthony Brown obviously concussed himself going for the ball, but slipped as well. I just wonder whether the defensive backs had just initially taken the advice and then decided no, actually they'll just stick during the week when they were practicing outside. Then went and said no, actually I'm gonna stick with my usual cleats.
Because Turpin was slipping too. On that return, you seen him bowl over.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, this game against Minnesota, I obviously we still need to collect our thoughts and stuff like that, but we've got a lot of dissecting to think for this Thursday show and stuff like that. And Big Wheel just made the comment. I'm genuinely surprised about this as well, considering the game that.
I don't like it when we're favourites either.
I don't like.
No.
Yeah.
When the Cowboys aren't favourites, there seems to be more dog in the defense when we're the underdogs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The defense seems to be like, yeah, we'll show you. But the trouble, I think go on.
I was just going to say, I don't know what the bookmakers are thinking, how they're thinking, and based on those two last the performance with the Vikings and the performance of the Cowboys there. So I don't know how that's worked out. I really don't know.
I think some of it is probably, although Micah Parsons didn't really do that much in the last game, but the Vikings, if I can try and think, going off what I've seen so far this week, is that the Vikings' offensive line is very poor, especially the inside. So both guards and center. And Christian Darrisaw, who's their best offensive lineman, he's on concussion protocol. Yep. So you've got a beat-up offensive line that's leaking going against one of the best pass rushing defenses in the league.
And if there's one thing, I suppose...
And Kirk Cousins does not like pressure.
Well, he does hold on to the ball quite a little bit longer than usual. So, but anyway, we're trying to sidetrack in here.
Yeah, because we can wrap this up.
we could.
Yeah, I think obviously we're now 46 hours after the end of the game. I think it's time to draw a line. We'll finish up this show and obviously look forward to the rest of the season. So
yeah. I stayed up. Go on.
No, I was going to say any final thoughts. So,
I stayed up way too late on the Saturday watching college football, and then that went into overtime after an overtime game. So I was completely whacked yesterday. Jamie spoke to me, and I was just like, "He's like, you okay?" I was like, "No, I've ruined my life."
I think my final thoughts is Dan Quinn needs to really have a sit down with his positional coaches to kind of really figure out why we're still leaking out in terms of the run. Try and figure out the Achilles heel that is run play options and shuffle passes and screen passes. That seems to be our common enemy right now, and obviously with the run game as well. So I think that needs to be our main agenda right now. And obviously Kellen Moore needs a slap across the face to kind of not stop diverging away from him when things have been really successful.
There's the irony, though, is that we complain about him, but the week before, when you look at the Bears game, brilliant play calling.
See, yeah, that's an example when he was actually being a fair distribution. It's because was that not Dak's first game back?
Yeah, no.
The reason
second.
But the reason he did that is because they're still trying to warm him up. But basically, he went full Tonto passing mode to give Dak those extra. I still just can't understand why he did that. I really don't. It really is inexcusable from Kellen Moore to call those plays. It really was.
And Thursday, I'll try and get for the pregame show. I'll try and get us a little sneaky special guest too.
Yeah, we're hopefully trying a nice wee special guest on Thursday, guys. So be sure to go and check us out on Thursday, usual time, 9 p.m. in the UK, 3 p.m. Central Time, USA.
And we'll just finish up by paying the bills. So let's see, we'll put Mike in the unusual position.
Yeah, I've never done this read before. Yeah, if you're going to a game this year, guys, make sure you book it through Cowboys Experience. They have meet and greet, stadium tours, game day tickets, tailgate parties, and all the rest of it. Some good shows, food, drinks, all the rest of it. Make sure as well, if you do book with them, tell them UK Cowboy sent you, because what happens there, guys?
You get free stuff.
Free stuff.
Free stuff. That's right.
And then we'll let Paul talk about the
Yeah,
Ring of
guys.
Honor.
Yep. So, guys, be sure to go and check out our fellow content creators within the Cowboys network. So, you've got the official DallasCowboys.com with Talking Cowboys, Hanging with the Boys, Mixed Shots, and you've also got SB Nation's Blogging the Boys, where you can find myself and Meg Murray talking every Saturday for the World's team. You've got like J-Tup there for CFO Sports, Big Game James, Law Nation, our good friends from Canada, Cowboys Can Fan there in the corner, Vaught Lombardi. Be sure to go and check every one of those guys out. They produce more content you can ask for as a Dallas Cowboys fan, and they all keep it real.
And also, I was going to say as well, look out for some really fun special guests in December. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah. We've got some very, very special guests coming up.
And so also check out our socials. Obviously, we're planning the big descent onto Dallas next year. So obviously, hopefully you'll all join us. We might even do a sort of live podcast while we're out there as well. That was in the plans anyway, so we'll see how that goes. Make sure you've joined our Facebook group and get all the information when it becomes available. We're still working on the final details, and obviously we'll need to wait until the schedule's released this week as well. But we'll take it from there as well. But
yep.
So
that's it for another week.
That's it. Game's over. Discussion's over, and we move on.
On to the next one. We can try and go for 7-3 if we can repeat the same victory from last year.
You going Bill Belichick on us, are you, Paul? On to next week. Yep. Do your job. Your job.
So thanks guys for tuning in. As usual, you guys make the show. Obviously, your contribution. If you weren't here, it'd just be us three talking, and it wouldn't be the show it is. So I'll leave it with these guys to say goodbye.
Well, guys, I know it's a disappointing loss, but hey, we're still 6-3. We've still got plenty of football. We're halfway through the season. Hopefully, we can actually bring it up onto the positives, and hopefully, we can make a run this year. Go Cowboys!
Yeah, rock and roll.
Cheers.